Welcome back, 5th grade. This is Mrs. Taranja with the Citizenship Academy. We are starting a new unit today. We are on Domain 9, Chemical Matter, Lesson 1, Entering the Badlands. Our objectives for today are to quote accurately from the text to explain its setting and scientific content. We're going to write detailed descriptions of physical properties of objects and to discuss the presentation of content in 3 different texts. Some key vocabulary. Mutter is to say something in a low or hard to hear voice, often with annoyance. Shimmer is to shine with a light that seems to move a little. Barren is bleak and lifeless. Sandwich is to be squashed between 2 things. Expert is someone who has a deep knowledge and skill in an area, usually from long experience and study. Lurch is to make a sudden, unsteady movement. Paleontology is the science of fossils. Chemistry is the science of matter. Matter is any substance that occupies space and has mass. Mass is the amount of matter in a substance or object. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start this unit with a read aloud. Chapter 1. Welcome to the fossil camp. It's got to be over 100 degrees out there, Amy muttered, staring through the windshield of the pickup. The Badlands of eastern Montana shimmered in the heat under a pale, cloudless sky. Barren ridges of weathered rock towered above dry gullies and patches of stiff prairie grass. Amy aimed the air conditioner vent so it blew directly on her face. I really don't like being hot. I'm afraid it's even hotter out at the fossil site, said Tess, swerving to avoid a pothole in a narrow dirt track. Lately it's been over 90 degrees in the shade. Great, thought Amy. She fanned herself with a paperback book. It was her favorite kind of book, a mystery featuring a clever detective. She had read most of it on the flight from Chicago and then finished it while she and Matt waited for Tess to pick them up at the small airport in Billings, Montana. Amy glanced back at her twin brother. He was sandwiched between their 2 backpacks in the back seat, with a big grin on his freckled face. Last month, when Matt had learned about Fossil Camp, he'd burst into her room waving the camp brochure. We could actually dig for dinosaur fossils, he whooped. Amy had planned to spend her summer vacation at home, reading mysteries out of the breezy screen porch and drinking tall glasses of icy lemonade. But Matt had talked their parents into Fossil Camp and Amy into coming with him. Now, sweltering the heat, she was having second thoughts. What's Dr. Forrester like? Amy asked. She'd read in the brochure that Dr. Pam Forrester was the paleontologist in charge of Fossil Camp. She's amazing, Tess replied, and a world expert on Cretaceous dinosaurs. Like Tyrannosaurus? Matt asked. Like Tyrannosaurus, Tess said, smiling at him in the rear view mirror. I hope we make an important discovery, Matt said, digging his water bottle out of his pack. Anything's possible, Tess said. These dry badlands are among the best places in North America to look for fossils, especially dinosaur bones. She swerved again but failed to avoid a deep rut, and the pickup lurched hard to one side. Sorry about the bump, she said, but the road washes out a bit more every time it rains. Who are the other campers? Amy asked. There are 2 other girls and 2 other boys, Tess replied. Daria and Julian are your age. Felix and Crystal just finished 6th grade, and so they're a year ahead of you in school. Amy hoped the other kids would be nice because together with Dr. Forrester and Tess, they were going to be camped out in this desolate landscape for 10 days. She glanced back at her brother again. Matt made new friends easily, and he also didn't mind the heat, or dirt, or bugs, or... Amy sat up suddenly as a new thought occurred to her. Are there snakes out here? Tess nodded, but kept her eyes on the track. Plenty, but we rarely see them during the day because it's so hot and they stay curled up in holes or under large rock ledges. Double great, Amy thought, swallowing hard. Snakes made her sweat as much as hot weather. And what did Tess mean about not seeing snakes during the day? Did they come out at night? She was about to ask when they crested a low rise, and Tess suddenly pointed. That's our camp. Or there's our camp. A cluster of tents stood in the shadow of a high, barren ridge. A slender woman with a deep tan waved as they pulled in. When they stopped, she strode over to the pickup, followed by 4 kids. Welcome to Fossil Camp, Amy and Matt. I'm Dr. Forrester, and these are your fellow campers. She quickly made the introductions. Felix was tall and very thin, with bony knees and elbows. Julian was about Matt's height, with close-cropped hair and a friendly grin. Daria was average height with short dark hair and watchful eyes that seemed to take in everything at a glance. Crystal was taller than Daria. Her blonde hair was swept to one side in a ponytail and she wore big dark glasses. Why don't you all help Amy and Matt get settled, Dr. Forrester suggested. Then we'll have orientation in our field laboratory. That's the big canvas tent with the awning out front. A wave of hot, dry air hit Amy as she stepped into the tent she was going to share with Crystal and Daria. It's unbearable in here, she choked. How are we supposed to sleep? Dr. Forrester says it gets a lot cooler at night, Daria says. There are 3 cots inside, each with a sleeping bag and pillow. Crystal took off her sunglasses and used them to point at the cots one by one. I'm here and Daria's there, which leaves you the bed by the door. Sorry. Amy thought sleeping close to the tent flap might be the coolest spot at night, so she didn't mind not having a choice. She dropped her backpack onto her cot. Did you bring your phone? Daria asked. Amy nodded, but I haven't even got a signal since we left Billings. Daria sighed and looked disappointed. I thought maybe it was just my phone. I've never been anywhere I couldn't make a call. It's like being in the middle of nowhere. We are in the middle of nowhere, Crystal said. She reached under her pillow, grabbed what looked like a large sketchbook, and stuffed it under her arm. Come on, I don't want to miss anything. Cool camp, huh? Matt whispered to Amy as they joined the others in the lab. This is going to be so much fun. Hoping her brother was right, Amy tried to put the heat and the possibility of snakes out of her mind as everyone gathered around Dr. Forrester. She was standing next to a long table in which there were boxes, some instruments that Amy recognized from science class, and 6 small cloth bags. Over the next 10 days, you're going to get first-hand experience excavating fossils, Dr. Forrester began. You'll also learn about the other things the paleontologists do. Felix raised a lanky hand. When do we eat? Breakfast is at 6 o'clock, and we'll leave for the fossil dig site at 7 o'clock, along with a packed lunch and a cooler full of cold drinks. We'll return to camp around 5, have dinner at 6, and then you'll have some time to relax around the campfire before bed. Felix raised his hand again. And what about snacks? Dr. Forrester suppressed a smile. Don't worry, Felix, there will be plenty of food. Then she gestured toward Tess. And now Tess has something to show you I think you'll all find pretty interesting. She is one of my students, by the way, and is getting her degree in paleontology with a minor in chemistry. Chemistry? Julian raised an eyebrow. What's chemistry got to do with fossils? Actually, quite a lot, Tess replied. Chemistry is the reason we have fossils out there to hunt for and collect. She reached into the pocket of her jeans and drew out some dark and curved that she held up for them to see. Fossils like this. Wow, a raptor claw, Matt gasped. This claw belongs to the velociraptor, the type of dinosaur that certain movies are made so famous, Tess explained. The dinosaur whose fossil bones you will be excavating were closely related to the velociraptor, so there's a chance we might unearth a claw similar to this one. Tess handed the fossil claw to Daria and asked her to pass it around. When Amy took the claw from Daria, she was surprised at how heavy it was. What is a fossil exactly? You'll learn a lot about fossils and how they form while you're here at camp, Tess replied. But for now, think of a fossil as matter that's undergone a change. Matter? Julian asked, frowning. Matter is everything in and around you, Tess explained. All the stuff on Earth and our solar system, our galaxy, and the rest of the universe. You mean the solid stuff, right? Julian's frown had deepened. Not just the solids. Matter exists in different forms or states. Most matter on Earth exists as a solid, a liquid, or a gas. For instance, the fossil claw is matter in a solid state. Water is matter in a liquid state, and the air we're breathing in is matter in the gaseous state. Tess took back the claw from Felix. Most of the fossil bones we'll be excavating, Dr. Forrester and I will study back in the lab at the university. Some of the smaller ones, though, we'll analyze right here. Part of analyzing fossils involves recording information about each one. What kind of information? Crystal asked, quietly flipping open the book she'd brought along. Amy saw that its pages were filled with drawings and realized it was indeed a sketchbook. We typically start by recording a fossil's physical properties. We can use our senses to describe the physical properties of a given type of matter. For instance, how would you describe this fossil claw? Crystal began sketching the fossil in Tessa's hand. It has a smooth curved surface, she said softly. Very good, Tess said, smiling. Shape and texture, the roughness and smoothness of something, are physical properties of matter. Some fossils we might find might be smooth like a claw, while others might be rough or pitted and have interesting marks on them. Marks? Daria looked puzzled. Grooves, dents, or possibly bite marks made by predators. Awesome, Matt murmured. If color is a physical property, then we could record that the claw is really dark brown, Julian suggested. Tess nodded. Basically, anything you see, touch, taste, or smell is a physical property of matter. You really want us to taste and smell the fossil? Felix asked, wide-eyed. Tess burst out laughing. That won't be necessary, Felix, but keep in mind that people see colors and describe textures differently. A fossil that looks dark brown to Julian might look different to someone else. Mass, on the other hand, she continued, is a physical property of matter that can be measured. Mass is the amount of matter in a substance or object. In fact, a formal definition of matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. Tess stepped over to the table. Mass is typically measured in metric units, such as grams. We use a balance to measure the mass of small fossils, such as this fossil claw. She placed the claw on the flat pan of the balance and slid the weight along its arm. As you can see, the claw has a mass of 113.4 grams. If you don't know how to use a balance, I can show you later tonight. That's because right now, Dr. Forrest said, gathering up the cloth bags and handing them out, we are going to head out to the dig site. These bags contain tools that paleontologists use to excavate fossils, so grab your hats and let's go meet our dinosaur. Matt nudged Amy, and she saw the glow of excitement in his eyes. Amy wanted to feel excited too, but she wished she hadn't let Matt talk her into coming to fossil camp. She wished she had been back home in Chicago instead of being stuck out here in a hot place with snakes. This is the end of part 1 of our video. We will continue our lesson in part 2.